Micro B-Day. Now we're going to be going over labor market. What is the labor market? What is a monopsony? What is a perfectly competitive labor market? What's the big difference? Well, I already have it drawn out for you. So, the demand for labor by a firm, the demand, and the supply of labor by just any unemployed person looking for a job. This is unskilled labor because it's in perfect competition. You don't need a skill. I mean, this could be going to cook at McDonald's, going to work at a car wash place, anything like that. This is the market for that. It's not a monopsony, which we'll get to later. So, a minimum or the wage set here is going to be $10. Forget I said minimum wage. That was a mess up. But so the demand and supply for labor here meet at $10 and price takers for where they're hiring. So $10 is where we're willing to meet, right? So as you can see, go down the line, go down the line, go down the line. Boom. This is the market. This is the individual firm in the labor market, in the competitive labor market. So what do we see here? You're like, what? There's only two lines? Why is there only two lines? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the supply is the same thing as your marginal factor cost, which is usually your marginal cost in a perfectly competitive firm, not labor market, but just a perfectly competitive firm. You know how there's two and it goes up? Well, this time, since supply is the same thing as the marginal factor cost, you just have this one line set at $10 here, right? Set at $10. And what is this curve here? Instead of well, it's the opposite of marginal cost, which we all know is marginal revenue. This is the marginal revenue product, which is the same thing as the demand in this case. The demand for labor, the demand for labor. So, let's look at this. Let's go by why it is sloping downward and what happens as you slope downward. So, diminishing marginal utility. So, you hire your first worker. He brings in $25 of profit. You're going to hire him. So on and so on. Eventually, you get to your fifth worker, and if he's only making $10, sure, you'll hire him, but the sixth worker down here is making less than $10. So now you're paying him $10, and he's not even worth $10. He's worth $6. So you're losing $4 total. You're not going to hire him, right? So now, there's a lot of things to explain here. Complete and explain side-by-side graph for the labor market firm. Include marginal revenue product, marginal factor - resource cost, supply of labor, demand of labor, and the quantity of labor that will be hired. Oh yeah, easy. So marginal factor cost, that's where the supply is. That's where the minimum wage has been set. Marginal revenue product, that is the demand. That is where you're going to hire people. That is the diminishing marginal utility, this sloping downward because it gets lesser and lesser and lesser. Where are you going to hire people? Number of people that are hired with marginal cost is marginal revenue, or equals marginal revenue, this dot right here. That's your quantity of people hired. Let's say that number is 50 people. Now, what would happen to both graphs? So if the price of the good in this firm, if the price of the good went up, simple. This would be a new area. Price is going up, you're going to hire less workers, but, well, actually, let me see this here. So let's say this is $20. This is now $20. Yeah, as you can see, you're going to hire less people. No, that's if the price, yes, if the price goes up, you're going to hire less people. But if the price of, okay, I messed up my wording. So, the demand, so not the price per se, but the price of the good, I messed this up entirely. And I got to completely restart my train of thought here. You're not changing the minimum wage. I was thinking in not a labor market. I was just thinking the price of a good in general. So if the price of a good stays up, but the market price for labor stays the same, $10, and the price of a good goes up, you're going to hire more worker, more people will be hired because you have more money to spend, and you'll be able to produce more. However, if the price of the good goes down, you're going to actually hire less people because you still have to pay them $10. And if they're making less and it's worth less, you're not going to hire more people if your product is losing value, but you will hire more people if it's gaining value. Sorry if I confuse anybody in that short little area. So now what happens if there's a binding price floor? So let's just go ahead and call this right here the binding price floor. My error before is now my saving grace now. So trick question, what happens if there's a non-binding price floor? Yeah, if you answered that question with anything other than nothing, then you're dumb. So sorry I had to say it. Someone had to say it. But, so this is now the new minimum wage. Let's say it's $50, right? So now that it's $50, you know, you're going to be losing. You can already tell just on this one that you're losing workers. So let's go over here. The number of people employed is going to drop to 20. You're losing people working because you're paying them more. You know, it's like this. Let's say there's a robot, Kessler robot, and I make 100 cookies, and I get $10. Robot makes 200 cookies, but you have to pay 50 for it to work. As you can see right here, I'm gonna win. I'm winning with the current wage. Now you put the minimum wage of $50 for me, 50, 100 versus 250. Well, now I'm not as productive as the robot is, so the minimum wage is gonna make me lose my job. But if you stay employed, you're gonna be making more money, and that's that. And I have to get to monopsonies, so this will be the conclusion of a perfectly competitive labor market. I cost $50 to operate. Yeah, it also costs $50 to hire, so thanks, big brother, for that one. Yeah, we're going to have to terminate your services here. The robot's just more profitable. You know, simple economics, if you know the labor market, just makes sense. We're sorry we had to do this. Thanks, government. To AP Micro B-Day, we're going to go over what monopsony is. Well, it's the exact opposite of monopoly. Just like you have perfect competition, you also have monopoly or monopsonies in labor. So this is when just one person's hiring. They are wage setters. They're letting you know what's going to cost. So they also have more cost by hiring you, which means there is a split between the marginal factor cost and the wage they can pay you. This type of market is actually, you're going to make less in certain situations. And, you know, it might not be as good for the person being employed, but it could be better for the person being employed. You never know what the minimum, whatever, it depends on whatever you're getting paid for in a perfectly competitive. So let's go over what all these random lines mean. So like before, the downward sloping line, marginal revenue product, marginal factor cost, where they cross is where you hire. So what's this line here that we didn't have before? This is the wages. This is what you're going to be paying, right? So, let's say it's 20 bucks. This is the quantity of people employed. Let's say it's 10 people. And it is really just that simple. That's all it is. Your marginal factor cost, wherever it crosses your marginal revenue product, the demand, wherever it crosses the marginal factor cost is where the wage is going to be set at, because that's what the workers are willing to take. You have to know this in order to hire people. And the quantity of people here is $10. Let's move it forward. Let's say we move this forward. Now it's here. Now we hire 20 people. Now we don't hire 20 people. But, sorry. So we moved, now we've shifted it. And now the marginal factor cost is closer to the wage. This is definitely a better business to get into. Because as I said, you're hiring more people and you're paying them more. But if the wage were to drop, which it more likely would, same sort of situation, you're just in a lawsuit. That is a monopsony. Alright, listen here, son. I'm either going to pay you less than what you could get working in unskilled labor in a perfectly competitive perfectly competitive labor market, or I'm going to pay you more. It's really just depends on what's going on with the company. You got me, I'm hired.